Welcome, happy day. Hey, the NRA in the recent magazine had a story about Canadian gun laws and different things, and I've been a life member actually of the NRA for probably 20 years, so I find their books interesting. I always like to read them, in particular when they have something that is silly and that could be corrected. A politician could do it. Here, this is what they say. The Inquisition of gun owners in Canada. They have registration, licensing schemes that demand permanent photo files sworn to by a person the government calls a photo guarantor. Okay, so you got to go find this guarantor, and then you have to have him prove it out to be a good person and so on, and try one of these questions during the past 2 years. And this is if you're applying for a gun license in Canada. Have you experienced divorce, separation, a breakdown of a significant relationship, job loss, or bankruptcy? For starters, Canadian gun control bureaucrats require 2 references who must swear that I know of no reason why, in the interest of safety of the applicant or any other person, the applicant should not be given a license to possess or acquire a firearm. And then in turn, the government requires personal information on those references also. The whole concept here, I think, of course, is to wear you down so you just surrender and say, I just don't want it, it's too hard. Kind of works. A lot of people do give up the legal process, but they don't give up having a firearm. So basically, the government manufactures criminals. NRA goes on to say Canadian bureaucrats also require personal details about one's partner, a spouse, a partner, or so on, and all other persons with whom you live. Why? So the government can seek their permission for a person to actually acquire a gun. So the chief firearms officer has a duty to notify them of your application. So says they, again. And on the form, it says this in big bold letters: if you have safety concerns about this application, please call 1-800-X. But there's even more demand for more information about a former partner. Have you got that? So if you break up with a girlfriend or a boyfriend years ago, if you're separated and or divorced years ago, you know what? They have the right to veto your application. That's actually mind-boggling. I mean, if somebody doesn't like you, you're not with them anymore. Guess why? Typically because you don't like each other anymore. Maybe they're mad, maybe they're bitter, and now they say, he's bad. You don't ever get a gun because of somebody you don't like, you're not living with anyway. I don't know. Canadian gun laws, they're just weird. It's a way to keep the guns out of the hands of the good people. And these little CFO guys, they're like a bunch of little Hitlers walking around doing their thing, and the conservative government in power does nothing to correct it, to put it back to where it used to be. The liberal government screwed it all up, and the conservatives are sitting there saying, that's okay, we can live with it, we have more important things to do. You don't. The safety and the rights of your citizens is the most important thing in the world. Get a man on that, for heaven's sakes. Here's a story for you. It appears that Larry Jackson, he's a bad guy, flashed his knife at the wrong guy. Recently this happened to him. He was wearing street clothes. This would be the policeman. Okay, he's a big shot in the policeman. He's a sergeant. And this bad guy came along and said, give me all your money. And the guy pulled his gun out, policeman, and said, I don't think so. And don't bring a knife to a gunfight. Dumb guy. He did. Birth tourism. That's making a mockery out of Canadian citizenship. Back to Canadian government, I guess. A lot of this goes on in the U.S. too, I get it. But this particular one is about Canada. There are birth houses. That's what they're called. They actually have names in Vancouver and Toronto and Montreal. And people there, women of course, go and have babies. And there's no medical bills. Government pays for all of that. And the people do, the taxpayers. And the babies now have all rights of all Canadian citizens. Socialist citizens, right? Okay, so Nigerian women are the most common users of this. They show up and they have the baby, and the baby's a citizen, and then they say, hey, my baby can make me a citizen, and nobody seems to know how to fix that. I think that's so simple. When you have a baby, you have a baby. It's got nothing to do with nothing. The baby kind of flows with the parenthood, right? If you come from Nigeria and you're a Nigerian citizen, then your child becomes a Nigerian citizen. Isn't that basic? I mean, birth tourism? I don't understand any of that. And the Canadian citizens are on the hook for zillions. I almost said trillions. Let's go with zillions of dollars. They're paying all of the time. Here's one story for you. A baby girl. She had a high-speed start to her life just last Thursday morning. Her mother gave birth in a train in eastern Germany. And now this new baby is going to get to travel free for the rest of her life. That's kind of cool, but that's free enterprise. The train department, the train company said, we're going to do this, we'll get press and more people will come on our train. Hopefully not to have babies, but they'll come on our train, right? And then in Canada, you got all the citizens paying for everybody. Okay, anti-gun researchers, you know, they're saddled up again to riot again. They're always doing it anyway. But this Obama, his administration, and the mayors, Bloomberg, and all the left-wing whack guys, they're constantly trying to get the guns out of the hands of people who didn't do anything bad. And recently they had another study that cost the taxpayers in America $10 million. And the study said, hey, we got priorities, gun control. The bad guys wrote it. The stupid guys wrote this, right? $10 million to find out that we got priorities on 50 topics. We got suggestions now. Let's collect data about gun ownership, acquisition and uses, issues relating to prohibiting private firearms sales and gun shows. And nothing new in that. Well, there is nothing new. I was going to say that the new thing is they spent $10 million. That's not new either. They waste money all of the time. It's kind of their thing. Let me end today with this. When I say I'm broke, I'm broke. Hey, I can relate to this. I've been rich and poor several times. This is kind of an interesting, fun story. Here it comes. A little old lady answered a knock on her door one day to be confronted by a well-dressed young man carrying a vacuum cleaner. Good morning, said the young man. I'm here to sell you things. Vacuum cleaner. And she says, I'm broke. I have no money. Oh, no, ma'am, let me in. I'm broke. She repeated it several times. No, no, ma'am. He took a big bucket of cigarette butts and dirt, threw it on her floor. No, no, ma'am, I'm broke. No, 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 no. And he says, I'll plug in a vacuum cleaner. And he did. Vacuum cleaner wouldn't come on. And she said, look, my electricity was cut off yesterday. I told you I was broke. Hey, 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 I'll come back tomorrow and have more for you. From the right. See ya.